It's truly ridiculous what we just heard. The legendary NASCAR driver Kyle Busch passed away. What we know about the entire issue is as follows. When you first hear this NASCAR story, it doesn't even seem genuine because you never know when it will end. One of the most successful, controversial, gifted, and well-known drivers in NASCAR history, Kyle Busch, passed away at the age of 41 after being admitted to the hospital due to what his family described as a serious illness. And it's not only because Kyle Busch was well known that this has affected the NASCAR industry so severely. The reason for this is that it happened so quickly. Fans were still watching him race a few days ago. He was still included in the weekly NASCAR discussion only a few days ago. Then, just hours after his family announced that he would miss Charlotte due to a health issue. The news that no one anticipated was confirmed by NASCAR. Today, we will discuss what actually transpired, what we know about the serious illness, why Kyle Busch's request for a doctor at Watkins Glen is being discussed, what NASCAR has officially stated, what made Kyle Busch such a significant figure in the sport, how drivers and fans are grieving him, and why his family needs support and privacy at this time. And before we proceed, I want to make this very clear. The precise medical cause of death has not yet been made public. His death following hospitalization was confirmed by NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and the Busch family. However, the nature of his sickness has not been made public. Anything more than that is therefore conjecture. Furthermore, conjecture is unfair to the family at this time. Here's what we currently know. Kyle Busch was hospitalized due to a serious illness, according to a statement made by his family earlier on Thursday. They stated that he will not participate in any of his planned events at Charlotte Motor Speedway because he was receiving treatment. He was therefore absent for the Coca-Cola 600 weekend, which is one of the most important weekends on the NASCAR schedule. We ask for understanding and privacy as our family navigates this situation. Kyle has experienced a severe illness that resulted in hospitalization. He is currently undergoing treatment and will not compete in any of his scheduled activities this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Fans were worried at that moment, but the majority of them continued to believe he could overcome this. Perhaps while make it to the following race. He might be absent for a few weeks. Perhaps Austin Hill's move to the number 8 Chevrolet was merely a stopgap measure till Kyle recovered. According to Reuters, Richard Childress Racing had said that Austin Hill will take Busch's spot in the number 8 Chevrolet for the weekend. However, just a few hours later, things took a terrible turn. Kyle Busch's passing was verified by NASCAR. He was referred to as a future Hall of Famer, a once-in-a-generation talent, and one of the fiercest competitors in the official joint statement from NASCAR, the Busch family, and Richard Childress Racing. Additionally, NASCAR stated that he had a strong passion for the sport and its supporters, and that his competitive nature contributed to the development of the devoted fan base known as Rowdy Nation. To be honest, you can't argue with that portion. You cannot ignore Kyle Busch, no matter how much you love or detest him. That was all of his might. When he first entered the Cup Series, he was a young driver with incredible speed, a razor-sharp edge, and no desire to win everyone over. He was snarky, passionate, aggressive, and occasionally both the hero and the villain on the same weekend. But you could see he was important each and every time he entered a race vehicle. In NASCAR, Kyle Busch was not a supporting cast member. He was among those who helped to create the modern period. This was not a retired figure from a bygone era, which is why the shock is so strong. This driver was engaged. This two-time Cup Series winner continued to compete full-time. This driver had recently attended Watkins Glen, only raced at Dover, and continued to participate in the weekly drama, discussion, criticism, and rivalry around the sport. The disease is currently one of the most important questions fans have. What was it? How did things go so bad? And prior to Thursday, was there any indication? The truthful response is that the precise ailment is still unknown. However, many enthusiasts now have a different perspective on one of Watkins Glen's moments. Kyle radioed his team during the May 10th Cup race at Watkins Glen and requested medical assistance following the race. Can someone try to locate Bill Heisel? According to the AP, he is the Kendrick physician. Please let him know that I need him after the race. Busch placed 9th in the contest. That particular aspect is crucial, but it needs to be treated with caution. During the program, a sinus cold was mentioned. Kyle requested a physician. After the race, he needed assistance. However, there isn't a verified public declaration claiming that Watkins Glen's death was directly caused by music. Since this is the only confirmed cause-related information available at the moment, we are unable to cross that threshold. No precise cause of death has been disclosed. However, he was admitted to the hospital due to a serious illness. However, it makes sense that people are drawing connections between the time frames. The way he pauses before saying the cup stuff makes me feel like he knew something was up, a fan commented on X. This is every bit as chilling now as when Dale's quote before the 500 just crushing. Also wonder how much Kyle knew what was going on and if he knew there was a chance he'd pass, another fan commented. And just 10 days ago while racing, Kyle Busch asked his team to find him a doctor. He was only 41 years old when he abruptly passed away earlier today. I'm not sure what exactly transpired over the last 10 days, but that kind of information makes this story feel even more surreal because in racing and music, we are accustomed to danger on the track. This was unusual. It wasn't a crash, even though we are accustomed to wrecks and drivers getting out after severe collisions. The NASCAR community is finding it difficult to comprehend this because it was not a fire, a superspeedway wreck, or a heavy hit at Dover or Talladega. Rather, it was a medical emergency unrelated to the typical danger that fans anticipate from motorsports. With 234 victories in all three of NASCAR's National Series, the Cup Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series combined, Kyle Busch holds the record for most victories in NASCAR history. He has 63 Cup Series victories, 102 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series victories, and 69 Truck Series victories. AP also stated that his 102 O'Reilly wins and 69 truck wins. Music. Kyle had 2 Cup titles in 2015 and 2019. Most drivers would do anything for 1 Cup victory, but Kyle had 63. Most drivers would be remembered forever for 1 national championship. These figures are nearly impossible to comprehend. And the 2015 championship may be one of the greatest comeback stories in NASCAR history. Kyle missed the beginning of the season after breaking his leg and foot in a Daytona crash, which would have put an end to many drivers' hopes of winning a championship before the season even got underway. However, he recovered, won races, qualified for the playoffs, and ultimately won the championship at Homestead. Kyle Busch's talent, music, stubbornness, and refusal to accept what everyone else thought was realistic were all evident in that season alone. In 2019, he repeated the feat, winning another Cup championship with Joe Gibbs Racing and solidifying his status as one of the most influential drivers of his generation. However, Kyle's influence extended beyond the Cup. He was nearly unfairly good in everything he drove. Trucks, Xfinity, Cup, short tracks, intermediates, road courses, restarts, long runs, chaotic finishes. The peculiar thing about Kyle Busch's career is that, even when fans were upset with him, they were typically upset because he was important. People cheered and jeered him when he won, but they still reacted, and in today's NASCAR, reaction is currency. Even though he claimed he didn't care about being the star, Kyle knew entertainment. His rivalries had tension, his victories had attitude, and his interviews had bite. The tone around Kyle completely shifted in the hours following his death. The argument stopped. His losses were frustrating. He gave NASCAR something it always needed: individuality. Fans on X were equally shocked. Brad Keselowski posted that was an absolute shock and said it was very hard to process. Denny Hamlin, Kyle's former teammate, wrote that he could not comprehend the news and said people needed to think about Kyle's family. And the rivalry talk slowed down as people started to remember the driver, the father, the husband, the brother, and the human being behind Rowdy Nation. This actually makes you appreciate every moment you have, someone commented. Kyle, RIP. I literally shed a tear, another person remarked. In racing, this man was my hero. An all-time great passed away too soon. I hope he was aware of how much his admirers loved him. Rowdy, may you rest in peace, and my sympathies to his family. I'm glad the crowd reactions got more positive towards him over the last few years, thinking about the good times right now, and one comment really summed up the emotional shock, wrote another admirer. WTF? This took me completely by surprise. May you rest in peace, Kyle. You've always been a brave driver and warrior. Kyle Busch was supposed to be still here, chasing another victory, arguing with drivers, making headlines, music, and attempting to pull the number 8 car back into victory lane. That phrase caught me off guard, which is exactly how so many people are feeling. Rather, turn the narrative into this. One aspect of this, in my opinion, merits more discussion. Kyle Busch was a notoriously raucous man who was known for his intensity, rage, and fire. Outside of the race car, however, fans began to see more and more of him as a husband to Samantha, a father to Brexton and Lennox, a brother to Kurt, and a father who seemed genuinely interested in helping Brexton learn racing the proper way. Kyle and Samantha also gained notoriety for publicly discussing aspects of their family journey, such as their struggles with infertility, their advocacy for IVF, music, and their bundle of joy fund to assist couples undergoing treatment. Fans are now viewing his family-focused social media posts in a different way. The NASCAR world knew the driver who could get angry with reporters, fight with rivals, and turn a race into a fight. But many also knew the family man who loved his wife, supported his children, and opened up about some of the most difficult personal chapters a family can face. His birthday message to Samantha, in which he expressed gratitude for her and the life they were creating with their kids, has been making the rounds again. An earlier post referred to Samantha as his biggest supporter and the best mother to their children. That is the kind of thing that hits differently after a loss like this because the trophies, championships, and wins matter. But at the center of this tragedy is a family that just lost a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. And that is where the NASCAR community needs to exercise caution. When someone passes away unexpectedly at age 41, people naturally want answers. However, there is a difference between desiring truth and making a conspiracy out of someone's final medical condition. Some fans have already begun to inquire as to whether the earlier sinus illness was related. Others are discussing the Watkins-Glen doctor's request. Some are wondering how someone could go from racing to hospitalization to death so quickly. These inquiries are reasonable, but the family requested privacy, and no formal medical explanation has been provided. The appropriate response is as follows. Kyle Busch passed away after being admitted to the hospital due to a serious illness. The precise cause of death and the nature of the sickness have not been made public. We can discuss what he meant, but everything else must wait. Kyle Busch was one of the best pure racers NASCAR has ever seen. He was the type of driver who could win when the car was flawless and occasionally when the car had no business winning. He gave younger drivers opportunities via Kyle Busch Motorsports, helped create careers, and provided fans with a villain when NASCAR needed one. He could dominate a truck race, embarrass the field in Xfinity, and yet compete with the best in the Cup. He gave Rowdy Nation a driver they could follow, song, with pride, and he provided the rest of the garage a yardstick because, whether drivers acknowledged it or not, defeating Kyle Busch meant something. If you defeated Kyle directly, you deserved it. That was Kyle. If you raced him incorrectly, you heard about it. If you passed him late, you remembered it. And if he won, he made sure you knew it. In all honesty, NASCAR will feel different without him. There are drivers with victories. There are drivers with championships. It's not polished, it's not safe, it's not always simple, but it's real. Few drivers have the emotional weight that Kyle Busch did. His name alone created tension, his presence altered the energy of a race weekend, and his struggles at RSR became a weekly storyline because people still thought he could flip the switch at any time. He was irrelevant even when he wasn't winning, which is uncommon. Now, the Coca-Cola 600 weekend will mean something entirely different. Rather than merely discussing who can win one of NASCAR's crown jewels, the sport will be racing through sadness. Teams will be operating under a shadow. Drivers will be getting into their cars knowing that one of the biggest names in the garage is gone, and Charlotte fans will be staring at the number 8 car, staring at RCR, and wondering what could have been. Kyle Busch should have been there. He ought to have been getting ready for 600 meters. He ought to have been attempting to persevere through one more challenging season. He ought to have had more time. However, NASCAR must now remember him as one of the most complete competitors the sport has ever had, in addition to being a champion, a music icon, a villain, and a rowdy. A motorist who was successful everywhere. A motorist who evoked emotions in others. A driver who cultivated one of NASCAR's most devoted fan groups and a parent whose family is in dire need of assistance. Therefore, patience is crucial when additional information ultimately becomes available. Don't jump to conclusions about conspiracies. Don't act as though you know what the family hasn't revealed. Avoid using a tragedy as an opportunity for cheap conjecture. The established reality is already devastating enough at this point. At age 41, Kyle Busch, a husband, father, brother, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, 234-time National Series winner, and one of the hardest drivers in racing history, passed away. And it still seems hard to express that. That concludes this NASCAR Central story. Please hit like, music, subscribe, and share the video if you're new here. As a new channel, we're aiming for 100 likes on this video and 5,000 subscribers. Additionally, your musical support is really important, particularly for a story like this. Tell us about your favorite Kyle Busch memory in the comments. A victory, a burnout, a rivalry, a radio message, and an instance in which you either loathed him, loved him, or came to appreciate his greatness. Kyle Busch, may you rest in peace. And thanks to Richard Childress Racing, Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, Kurt, the whole Busch family, and all the fans who grew up watching Rowdy do what only Rowdy could.